My name is John Suzuki, and in June of 2019, I went to Italy to visit the site of the Gothic Line battle of World War II. On my trip, I was accompanied by Davide Del Giudice, who is a local historian on the Gothic Line battle and very knowledgeable about what happened during the entire experience. The Gothic Line was virtually an impenetrable mountain range that spanned across the entire country of Italy from the west coast to the east coast. For most of World War II, the Germans held the mountaintops of the Gothic Line, and for 6 months, the Allies tried to displace the Germans because winning the war in Italy required winning the Gothic Line. This is a photograph of the westernmost end of the Gothic Line, anchored by Montefogarito, which is that peak you see on the left. The Allies had to win the Gothic Line in order to win the war in Italy. While the Allies, including the Americans and British, had unsuccessfully tried to displace the Germans for 6 months, the 442nd reported that they would secure a position atop the Gothic Line within 48 hours. The photo that you see is actually the backside of the Gothic Line that is so steep and treacherous that the Germans didn't guard it. 2 nights prior to the attack, the 442nd arrived in the village of Azzano, which you see here, in complete silence and under the cover of darkness. They hid during the day in silence and moved out at 10 p.m. that night. They climbed 3,000 feet virtually straight up with nothing but goat trails and the pitch darkness of night. Imagine walking up the stairs of 3 Empire State Buildings with dozens of pounds of battle gear, no light, and goat trails instead of stairs. As they climbed, the one order they were given was not to scream in the case that they fell, because if they did, they would give away the position of 5,000 men of the 442nd. This is their story of the Battle of the Gothic Line. The little village that you see is a village of Azzano where the 442nd hid for 2 nights before the attack. They then made their 3,000-foot climb in complete darkness and silence and set up mortar positions in that group of trees. Then L Company moved to the left towards Montefogarito, and I Company and E Company moved to the right towards the ridges. As the men moved forward toward Montefogarito, they encountered their first German bunker. The problem for the Germans was that they were all sleeping, all 8 or 9 of them, so the 442nd took them by complete surprise. You can see in the back Montefogarito. They had to fight through those ridges and through that vegetation that was covered with Germans and machine gun fire. Many of the Germans were hidden in foxholes with machine guns cross-firing at the 442nd and hidden in vegetation between them and Montefogarito. When they reached the base of Montefogarito, they found yet another hidden trail, and the 442nd took that trail and surprised the Germans and took over the top of the mountain. About 2/3 of the way up the mountain today is a memorial for the 442nd in gratitude and honor of the men who helped to liberate Italy. This bunker is one of the reasons why the 442nd had to take over Montefogarito. From here, they could see everything that was going on, and the Germans could monitor all of the actions that the Allies were taking. When the 442nd overtook the top of Montefogarito, the Germans had to run. They had to run out of their bunkers, and they had to run down the mountain. Because the mountain is so steep, there's quite a bit of doubt that any of them made it down the mountain before the 442nd caught up to them. Today, there stands a monument in honor of the Gothic Line battle. When I Company and E Company reached the top of their climb, they turned right away from Montefogarito in the other direction. This is an example of the terrain they faced. From here you can see Mount Fogarito. You can see the saddle, and you can see the bunker, the Germans' bunker up there. And yeah, this is where it all happened, as well as that way. That's where the field hospital was. And that's where your stick came from. This is yet another example of the kind of fortifications and foxholes the 442nd had to fight through, and the kind of terrain that they had to deal with as they were fighting the Germans. Moving forward, the 442nd moved up across the ridges and down in pursuit of the Germans. The mountain range known as the Gothic Line was won within about 3 days. They had won the entire mountain range from the west at Mount Fogarito and to the east across those ridges. Shortly after this victory, the war in Italy ended.